Hey Adventurers, today is going to be a video on why I love dragons. This will probably be a little bit longer video than normal because I accidentally wrote a 6-page essay, or I guess it's only 4-page, but I used a smaller font size than I would for writing an essay, so it's basically like a 6-page essay. And I'm going to present this all because that's kind of what happened. Anyways, I was talking, this is a video that I've wanted to do for a while, for longer than I've specifically been planning it, but I have wanted to do it. The Why I Love is a series that I've kind of been doing since the beginning of the channel, and it's one that I don't have very many entries for and that I don't do entries very often for because they take some thought and they take some work. But specifically, I was asked, I guess several months ago now, by Kayla from Kay's Hidden Shelf to explain why I love dragons. And so I was like, alright, I guess I'll do this video then. And before I got here, I did do 2 other videos related to dragons. One of them was dragon book covers, I believe was one of them. And then the other one was a book dragon tag that was created by Bookish Chaz. So those 2 videos kind of were the lead up to this one, both intentionally, but kind of unintentionally. Like, I wasn't specifically planning those as the stepping stones to this video, but they kind of became that when I started planning them and doing those ones and then writing this one. So anyways, we'll get into the video because it will probably be a fairly lengthy video, and most of it I will just be reading from my script because that's basically what it is. I guess before I get started, I will mention this. If you guys are liking and enjoying what you're seeing from an Erudite adventure, we would really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe and comment down below with your thoughts on any of the videos that you've watched. Thank you guys for watching. We will get right back into this. So, there are tons and tons of reasons why I love dragons. This will in no way be a comprehensive list, but it is a good start, I think. First off, they come in all sizes, shapes, designs, colors, and abilities. There's no limit to what a dragon can be. There's also thousands of variations of the draconic species, and while the definition of dragon differs from that of a worm, drake, wyvern, serpent, etc., for this video I will use the term dragon to refer to them all, but in reality I often mean a specific subspecies of draconic beings. I did split this essay into several different parts, and the first part being history. So, dragons can also be found in ancient history and myths from all over the world. Often when talking dragons, the first thing that comes to mind is what is now known as the European dragon, the classic 4-legged, flying, fire-breathing, treasure-hoarding giant lizard. And indeed, that is a great dragon. I love those. But you don't have to look too far to find several other cultures with their own, just as famous or infamous variations. The Chinese dragon is drastically different. Really, the only similarity is that it flies and is reptilian. But if you go to the Americas, you find the Quetzalcoatl, or feathered serpent. This was basically an Aztec god, but while clearly a dragon by today's standards, it is very different in that, well, it is feathered. Basically a mixture between a bird and a snake. Quite the difference from both the European dragon as well as the Chinese dragon. That is just 3 examples of very famous dragon types, but it covers a massive portion of the earth. But even with that, you can go to pretty much any part of the world and find their own version of the dragon myth. History. With all these myths, though, it begs the question, were dragons actually real? Some might say no, it was just dinosaurs, or something along those lines. But there's several things about that, even. Why can't dinosaurs be dragons? Dinosaurs are, after all, giant reptiles, as are dragons. So what's to keep us from saying that they might not have been? Nothing at all. Beyond that, though, why couldn't there be actual dragons, or creatures that could fly and were big and caused issues for people? There's no reason whatsoever. Indeed, if you look in many ancient texts, some supposedly mythical and some historical, there are often references to dragons, or draconic creatures. I, as a Christian, take the Bible to be history and fact, and there are numerous references to dragons therein. From what is suspected to be the earliest written book, Job, all the way to the New Testament and in the book of Revelation, dragons, or specifically the dragon, which is Satan, are talked about extensively. So again, we have fictitious, historical, and religious texts all talking about the existence of dragons. Seems a good case to me that they are, or at least were, real. Their use in stories. There's several different types of dragons. Here, when referring to the different types of dragons, it's not specifically like a red European dragon or a blue ice dragon or whatever. It's more of the type of trope that they are used in for the story. You'll understand a little bit more what I mean about that as I go through. So, a force of nature. These are often unbeatable terrors that appear to wreak havoc, but don't always play much of a role before or after their appearance. The story doesn't revolve around them, and you see them from a bird's eye view rather than an up close and dirty details of the scene. I think one of the best examples of this would actually be Calagon the Black from the Silmarillion. You basically, all you know is that he exists, that he's massive, and that he was killed, but he did a ton of damage to the world in the time that he was fighting and before he was killed. That's really all that you know about Calagon the Black, but it's pretty cool. And so that force of nature, just they're there, they're big, they're dangerous, that's what you're gonna get from them. I do really like this force of nature type of dragon because of just how powerful and awesome, or even awful, meaning full of awe, they are. You see them and you're like, oh, that's a big dragon, and it's just cool to see. There's also the ancient, wise, and powerful entity. These are often used as a way to gain information, knowledge, or understanding. They are older than old, neither good nor bad, and keep their own counsel. They also do not usually play a massive role in the story other than to help the character along their journey in some way or another. Again, I like these because of the life lessons and the wisdom that can be granted by both the character and the consumer. They are a way to impart lessons that any other way would be a bit too heavy-handed at times, but through this dragon wisdom, this idea that dragons are inherently wise and ancient and magical beings, you can impart wisdom and knowledge that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. A natural part of the world. This is a less common use, but one that is particularly interesting. When dragons are taken as just another thing that exists in the world, they become less terrible and more normal. The magic is taken from their appearance, and you can see them as interesting creations. That's kind of a strange idea that a dragon would just be an interesting creation, and this is by far done the best that I've ever seen in the, what are they called? The Lady Trent memoirs by Marie Brennan. A Natural History of Dragons, where it's just, these are a natural part of the world. We're going to go study them because we want to, because that's our passion. It's no different from somebody who goes and studies birds or fish or insects or anything, trees. You go and study it because you're interested in that. And that's kind of the idea behind these natural part of the world, and it's a very interesting way. I do like this because of how much they can add to a culture when some dragons are taken as pests, others are as legitimate but uncommon threats, and still others as just completely harmless and they don't really affect anything. It's the same way that we look at animals in today's world. Moose, bear, dogs, cats, owls, whatever, any type of animal that you see, it has a specific role, but it may or may not play an important role in your life. And I really like seeing that. An obstacle. This type is very often found in older works, myths, legends, and the like. They're something that the character has to overcome in order to achieve some goal or another. Slay the dragon, win the princess type idea. It often leads to glorious battle and a fighter learning something about themselves in the process. I do like these as well because we can see how a character reacts and has to deal with the obstacle that is rather different than something like climbing a mountain or traveling long distances. It's a distinct threat to their life, not something that they can just work harder, hold on longer, and they'll be able to overcome. It's something that often they have to think about it and work really hard, be very smart, very quick on their feet, very agile, but also not making stupid mistakes or else they're gonna lose, and they probably still will come away scarred. And that's dragons as an obstacle is just a very interesting and fun idea, and again, you see it mostly in old myths. A godlike being. These are the types that are worshipped, that have great power, and that are the driving force behind a character's motivation. They push the story forward even if it's not directly. They are more powerful than you realize, but less powerful than they think. Probably it may not be the best example I've ever seen, but it's the most fresh in my mind, would be Gurzil from Gurzil and Baden Hill by I Anonymous. This is a self-published series. The Wars of Wrath is a series. But the way that Gurzil is used, he's treated like a god. He believes himself to be a god, but in reality, he's basically just like an angel, a fallen angel, a demon. And very, very powerful, yes, but he's not God. And the way that it's used is very cool, but still this idea of a godlike being where they are worshipped, where they are powerful. I like these because of the danger and the stakes that are added to a story just by gods meddling in the affairs of men. And then the last type of dragon that I have is the bonded companion. Like any other animal companion, these are often relationships that are built over time. You don't get a dragon and instantly everything is perfect. It's a hard and dangerous task training a dragon to where you can utilize it to some degree. But once you do, that bond will become the life force of a character and will help them through many difficulties. I like these because they help a character to be more fully fleshed out, and you can see their emotions and personality better based on how they treat their dragon. The dragons often also have a unique and individual personality, and itself is a character. Oftentimes you will find more than one of these types for each individual dragon. They will be mixed and matched, but what remains is that there is always something about them that is extremely fun to see, but also that they force the character to have to deal with things that wouldn't otherwise be available. What they can do. So when it comes to dragons, they have so many different abilities. The most common is definitely the fire-breathing dragon. And that is a wonderful ability, but while that may be the most well-known, there's so much more that they can do. Dragon magic is often a very important part of them. That is where their wisdom comes from, that is where their power of the breath comes from. Even if it's fire, dragon fire is more potent than normal fire, often because of the magic involved. That's what makes them so mesmerizing and such a force to be reckoned with so much of the time. Their breath, while often fire, can also be so many other things. Noxious fumes or poison, ice, frost or water, acid, etc. There's so many options depending on what is needed for the story and what the dragon needs based on how and where it lives. They have impenetrable skin, they're covered in scales, hard and tough. Or they have a very thick hide that is also hard to pierce. Whether it's impenetrable or not, it's very hard to pierce. They have wings to fly, a massive tail, huge claws and teeth, and sometimes even multiple organs or organization of their internals are different, so that killing them becomes more and more difficult. Built-in redundancy, if you will. The idea of either two hearts or a heart that's on their left side rather than on their right side. It's these ideas that just make a dragon so much more unique and more difficult to overcome. Also hypnosis. Of course, this could tie directly into their dragon magic, and usually does, but the idea of a serpent's eyes being as much a weapon as anything else is not native to just dragons. Then of course, there's the variety of colors, shapes, sizes, living conditions, etc. that come along with them. Depending on the amount of appendages they have and of what type those appendages are, you can actually have entirely different draconic subspecies. The temperament of each subspecies does depend on how the author writes them, but you can usually rely on a wyvern, or I always call them wyverns, to be more of an aggressive scavenger than like your classic dragon, your European dragon, and things like that. Some swim, some can't fly, some walk on legs, some slither. It absolutely depends on what the author wants, and they can always find that option somewhere. And my last point is our emotional reaction. This is awesome. That's the reaction that we have. We see a dragon, it looks cool, it's big, it's menacing, it's scary, but it's also beautiful, and you just see it and this is awesome. That's your response, that's your reaction. Humans are naturally drawn to fire and destruction. We also like seeing big, impressive things, whether it's a building or an elephant or whatever it might be, we're just wowed by them. Dragons are no different. Just like in Jurassic Park, the movie, when they see the Brachiosaurus and their jaw just drops open and they look at it thinking, this is real, I never thought we could see this. Not only have I never thought we could see this, but there's no way that it's as beautiful as I'm seeing in my eyes right now. We have that same reaction to other cool animals and creatures when we've never seen them before, even if we have sometimes. Like you see a creature, I'm still wowed by moose every time I see them. They're such cool creatures, but it's that reaction of, wow, look at this is so cool, this is awesome. That is what it all comes down to in the end. We know the myths, we know the stories and histories, but we will not believe that there is a possibility of it being real. So when it is, or at least it is real to the characters in the stories, and we see it through their eyes, we can't help but feel the awe and wonder, and often terror from them. Are they the only way for us to experience these things? Absolutely not. But being the arguably most popular and famous fantastical creature, there's a level of accessibility and attainability with dragons. And dragons are not the only fantastical creature that I love and that I love to see and experience. Griffins are another great example of this, where it's just something so magical and so wonderful that the experience of seeing them is just awe-inspiring. You see it and you're like, this is so cool. And that's the same reaction you get with a dragon. That's the same reaction you get from a good use of a firebird, a phoenix, or any other creature. You can have an elephant that is used the same way. In fact, in Lord of the Rings, it is. When Frodo and Sam see the Oliphants, and they're just like, Sam's like, I never thought these were even real, but it is. And then his reaction to it, it's the same type of reaction. It's this is such a cool moment for me. I didn't think this could ever be possible type moment and reaction. And that's what it all comes down to. As much as I love the history, as much as I love the myth of them, the different variations of dragons, whether that's in the way they're used in a story or the variation in sizes, shapes, colors, abilities, whatever it might be, that's all awesome. But it eventually all comes down to their emotional reaction that we have through them. So that is the extent, that is what I wrote down for why I love dragons. I'm sure a ton more could be said on this topic, and probably has been, but that's kind of where my thoughts were going as I was writing this and as I was thinking about what I wanted to do for this video. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite adventure. We post videos every Monday and Thursday and have our social medias linked in the description down below. We will see you guys again soon. Stay well.